Hello, welcome everyone. This is Can I Beat This? And this is how to make Baldur's Gate really hard and then beat it anyway. The rules are: number 1, no baromancy, no Gale Veronica in bags, no changing classes, no leveling up, tactician mode only, and I have to beat the game solo. Party members can be recruited though, and they could be used instead of the main character. I went for the Dark Urge origin with a rogue Githyanki, the medium armor proficiency, the weapon proficiencies. The mage hand cantrip make Githyanki the obvious choice here. Dark Urge will also give us access to Slayer form and the cape, which are going to be too good to pass up. Then I quickly made myself look beautiful and then gave myself a whimsical name. Big Head Fred begins his journey thinking about how much he hates ready salty crisps. He was going to help Brainy, but then his Githyanki racism took over. I decided to attack the imp on the right, and then ran Lazel up the hill. First imp misses and the second imp uses 5 or 4 damage, looking good so far. I attacked the imp in front of me and killed it, and then used my bonus action to use Flourish on the second imp. How effectively we use turns is going to be vital to beating this challenge. That Flourish set up a sneak attack on this turn to ensure victory. On the bridge, I attacked the Hellspawn with my weapon already dipped in fire, hoping for a one hit, and we barely miss out. Unsure if I'm going to survive the next turn, I tried to position myself around the boar to try and make a run for it. The boar hits us for 5, which is half my health, but the imp only hits us for 2. With 3 HP left, the last imp misses. I heal up, finish off the Hellspawn, and then keep on running towards the transponder. Imps both get really low damage roll on us. I kill the one in front of me, and then I get a bit too greedy and I try to attack the commander. I disengage, heal up, and then get out of there before I die. I dash and run through the middle, loot the Mind Flayer before jumping into the space here before edging towards the transponder. But we can't get close enough, so now I have to end my turn next to 3 enemies again. The boar hits us for 4, the imp attacks but misses, and the final imp goes for Fireball. But with that close call behind us, it's time for ASMR tentacles.
The Helm's alien transponder. You made it in time.
Big Head Fred tried to recruit Shadowheart, but she was a racist apparently.
Distrust, hostility, because you are Gith.
He sneaked past the brains, muttering under his breath about how they're all stealing his jobs. While trying to recruit Astarion, Big Head Fred couldn't contain his excitement and accidentally had an orgasm.
A pleasure.
Big Head Fred's brain racism took over and he went back to reclaim the workforce and fight for the Brit Yankee people. He dipped his mighty crossbow into a candle, like a man, and then unleashed a sneak attack on the unsuspecting brain. The brains are both surprised, so Fred, infused with hatred from childhood memories of Githyanki teasing him for having a large head, attacks the other brain before finishing off the closest one. Still surprised, the last one is quick to fall. While looting the surroundings, we find a potion of speed and a caustic bulb, which are both very, very important items, especially the bulb. I gave Gale a hand before deciding to save him, as I wasn't sure whose help I was going to need on this journey. Big Head Fred is barely able to intimidate a couple of tieflings to free Lazel. I positioned myself at the top of this hill to start the battle, but I failed to notice that I was dipping my crossbow in the candle, and to top it all off, I tried to position myself away and hopefully get out of the line of sight of at least one of the goblins. Zevlor is up next and luckily gives everyone a free HP boost. Both goblins though are able to attack us, but one of them misses. Now, I've been trying to make a throw build, but I'm still learning throw mechanics, so I make the mistake of throwing a short sword here and it does not do a lot of damage. So I tried to retreat further and pray my HP holds up. Fortunately, only one goblin attacks and it misses. I run towards them and this time I throw a dagger instead. But it's not enough damage. I'm able to survive to the next turn and finish off the goblin archers. The fight goes fine from then on, but then this happens. With Will dead, Big Head Fred and Zevlor finish the battle. Inside Emerald Grove, we buy the Ring of Flinging and a couple of fire arrows and ice arrows. We're now able to recruit Shadowheart, which is huge for the run, so we recruit her and send her to camp.
Lead the way, but try anything suspicious and I'll kill you. Understand?
Also, we're going to grab the hunting shortbow from Damon. After progressing some of the story, we join a pop group with Alfira. Now this next part, I lost footage of it and I didn't have the save file, so this part is done with paid actors.
Nobody's getting any damn cheese! Now move it!
And then when everyone is far enough away, I attack this large stone to create myself an entrance. I then enter inside the temple. This is where that fire arrow we just brought is going to come in hand. As you can see, all of the enemies are positioned around this barrel, and if you shoot it at the right spot you can kill them all in one. Now, I can't reclass, but I'm letting myself change stats, so I do need to free withers. I decided to start the battle from this side. I hit to put a last known location and then stepped inside, hoping that they would investigate, find nothing, and then I could surprise attack them instead. But nothing came, so I tried summoning the Mage Hand to force them to look for me. The Mage Hand saves on their detect and I'm forced to have to use another turn just to be seen. But they're able to kill the Mage Hand and come try and find me. From then on I'm able to sneak around and pick them off one by one. The last guy is pretty scary though, since he does a lot of damage and has a lot of HP. I create a little distance with shove and then shoot him with an ice arrow to try and slow him down. I land a massive double crit and then I try and put some distance between us. He hits us for 5 with a stone, but I'm able to finish him off with one more hit. As I forgot to sort my stats out earlier, I quickly adjusted my strength to 16, my dexterity to 16, I kept constitution, int and wisdom at 10, and put my charisma at 13. While looting, I grabbed a silver pendant and a necromancy of Fae, both of which are very valuable items to have. I also used my rogue deception skills to convince the ogres to help me. Before moving on towards the goblin camp to buy the returning pike and the gloves of archery from Grat. I went and rescued the Grand Duke to get the jolt shooter. I grabbed a spurred band while heading through the whispering depths underneath Blighted Village, before using a scroll of Featherfall and jumping down into the Underdark. We grabbed the singing sword the Falar Aluv before sneaking our way past the Minotaurs. I head down to the beach first to ally the Dwagar so they're not invisible to us later.
A purebred dog of war from that snarl. You can walk.
Then back into Mushroom Village, I steal one of the best boots in the game from the gnome, the Boots of Speed. I then quickly go down and help Balin before deciding to destroy my PC. After that, I hand in a noble stalk to Dereth and get the gloves of uninhibited Kashigo, before completing a Mullum's quest so that I get access to his shop and survival instinct. Now I decided to take Glut. We went hunting for a hook horror. I had to kite it all the way back towards the Mushroom Village while Glut tanked it for me, but I was able to keep Glut healthy and kill the hook horror. After one was dead, I had Glut resurrect it and went back to start all over again. I don't have all the footage here because this took a lot of time, but eventually we were able to fight the Drow Mage 3v1 and then I had Glut resurrect him. I decided to use 2 tadpoles I had acquired so far to get Shield of Thralls, since it would give us 10 extra HP and a possible stun. Taking out the Dwegar was a lot easier than I had anticipated. This one was invisible, but I was able to correctly guess the angle I needed. The Necromancer was next to go, and I thought I was going to be in a battle after this, but
Actions have drawn the ire of someone nearby. A fight is inevitable.
yeah. So then I knocked the cleric down before finishing them off with a fireball. And then the final Dwegar went for a swim in the lake. We made sure to get 2 hand crossbows before leaving the Underdark. Back in the Goblin camp, I used Shield of Thralls to boost my HP before talking to Abdarak about receiving Leviathar's blessing. I was able to position myself far enough away that the shield didn't stun Abdarak and ended up surviving on 2 HP.
You bore the pain like a true believer.
This earned me a massive permanent buff. Afterwards, when Abdarak wasn't looking, I stole the Ritual Dagger for its weapon skill. I will be using this a lot to lower my HP for the buff. For Priestess Gut, we asked to speak with her privately before picking her up and throwing her over here. From there, it's a quick shove off the edge. No loot for now, but we'll be back for it later. For Minthara, we tell her where the grove is, and then when she walks off across the bridge, we shoot the supports out.
There's a time and a place for
The Goblin is a little angry, but we're able to talk our way out of it and everything is fine.
locked up.
After drinking a strength elixir, we're able to draw Ragzlin at the support to kill him. We then misty step behind the goblins, dash and run away, closing the door behind us to break the line of sight. The goblins aren't able to get near us, so we misty step over to Gut's room, hide and then walk away. We keep going until we're considered to be out of combat. I still need one thing from here and there's a bunch of goblins in my way. I start off by sneak attacking this goblin and they're so close to death that a shove is enough. I then attack this wooden hinge above the goblins. I tried to knock the statue down, but we barely missed this goblin. I decided to use my bonus action to attack one of the mage goblins before beginning my retreat.
With haste.
A goblin dies from burning damage and the rest dash towards me. I'm able to get a bit of extra damage on another goblin before retreating into this room. I go for an ice arrow to try and kill in one and set up some icy terrain. I then use my bonus action to attack before retreating into the room to break line of sight. One goblin runs in, and even at level 1, one goblin is no match for a level 1 adventurer. My trap sprung, I reset it by closing the door and waiting nearby. A goblin dashes in, and when it goes for a bonus action, my heart sinks. Fortunately, it's just a strength X, and we live to see another day. With the remaining goblins grouped together, now is the perfect time to throw a smoke powder bomb. The Warlock lives 6 HP and my final bonus action. I decided to save Volo for his eyeball services later.
Look at this! I'm quite saved!
I start this fight as I ended the last one, but 2 of the goblins save. With the goblin surprised, I can get another kill and some damage before retreating. After the goblin dashes in, I just line up the shot and finish it. After making quick work of the goblin nearby, I leave myself here, planning on hiding on the next turn and then getting out of combat. Until this goblin supermaned his way up the stairs. Halsin finally breaks out. Then I decide to hide in this room and make the ground slippy. I weaken the goblin a little and then build a small mountain at the door. Scared of the mountain, the goblin turns and runs away. I was able to land some nice damage with fire arrow before decimating the remaining goblins with a smoke powder bomb. From there it was a straightforward fight with Halsin getting the last hit. And all that for these line breaker boots that will be our endgame boots. Then some dark urge things happened.
You roll her away.
Before taking the time to farm some gnolls to make potions of speed, we first have to talk our way through this encounter before using this high ground here to ambush the gnolls below. With a bunch of materials to craft potions of speed, it is off to the Creche, ignoring the warning sign. I forgot to mention, but we also recruited Scratch along our travels for the fine familiar later on. First thing I did was purchase graceful cloth. Then inside the Creche we purchased the gloves of dexterity and the knife of the Undermountain King. Zayfisk for the buff to our livid powers. Before progressing the story any further, I quickly open the door towards the blood of Lathander. This will be important in a little while. And then in the commander's room, we use the mage hand to move the chest into a position where we can loot it. After doing the story, just before we go back to the room, we throw a potion of invisibility on everyone. The commander will start talking to us like we're not invisible, and then the battle begins and then it immediately ends, and then we just run towards the blood of Lathander to be out of an area where we can't teleport from, and then we can leave. I decided to fight the Grimforge Guardian too for fun. I started off by standing here before initiating the battle. I am then going to stand here. This will cause the Guardian to be half in the lava and half under the hammer. I then go back to this spot before dropping the hammer. The Guardian will stand up, ending its turn. Since it's still in the lava, we can use a bonus action to drop the hammer again. Then I use a scroll of invisibility to keep us safe from the ads, moving away from that spot so I'm not detected. One of the methods checks my last known position and finds nothing before the rest of them circle the Guardian. The Guardian stands back up and attacks the methods and doesn't move, which is exactly what we want. I drop the hammer again and the Guardian is left with only 12 HP. But two methods die and give me invisibility again from my cape. I decided to position myself here away from the last known location. The mephit can't find me and then goes towards the Guardian. This is perfect. The Guardian kills the last mephit, but this puts us out of combat. But with some quick thinking, I'm able to drop the final hammer and reap the rewards. To finish off Grimforge, I allied myself with Nere and had him kill Thryn via the dialogue. When the battle starts, we misty step up onto this ledge and try to get away from any ranged attackers. If done successfully, the Dwagar should all buff up and attack Nere. From here on out, what I'll be doing is maintaining high and attacking with bonus actions only. We need to end every turn in high to stop the rangers and mages from being able to attack us. It's a surprisingly easy fight using this strategy, but it's very long, so maintaining your focus is key to survival. The focus order for this battle is any rangers or mages first, and then you can focus on killing any melee. With most of Act 1 content done, we can then move on to Act 2. Anything important that I've missed, I will be back for later. Big Head Fred wanted to go into the curse lands through Grimforge, and ignored the game's warnings of how much of a sexy mother Yankee he is. On his journey, he ran into a group of harpers that were struggling with the curse. But Big Head Fred ignored their pleas, for he had pockets to plunder at last Light Inn, and his massive head with an astonishing 10 whole intelligence level already knew where to go anyway. He purchased the incandescent staff, the mighty cloth, amulet of the harpers, and the cloak of protection from Tally using the special 5-finger discount, before using the same discount to purchase the sword of life stealing and dark fire shortbow from Damon. On his travels, our hero Big Head Fred came across a being with more eyes than brain cells.
You bless them too, my queen. Where is their lantern?
Using his massive brain and 10 whole intelligence levels, he quickly talked the idiot into giving up his shiny moon lantern and marching themselves to their deaths. Happy about everyone being dead and his amazing mustache being cleaner than the king's arsehole, Big Head Fred decided to free the fairy in trade for her eternal servitude.
Protection from the shadow curse. What more could a dingus want?
He headed inside Moonrise Tower and purchased a net emissor and the marksmanship hat from Rowan Moonglow, before pimping out Astarion for the everlasting vigor potion from Araj.
Fine, I'll do it.
Eager to fight something, he backtracked to do some hag fight preparation. First, he buffed with guidance before drinking a potion of invisibility. After succeeding the investigation check, he headed inside. His big head, swollen from having to control the power of his massive 10 intelligence levels, decided that turning on turn-based mode would give him enough time to navigate the hag's back passage. The waterfall can be a bit tricky to navigate since any water swords will break invisibility, so our hero waits for an opening in the enemy's line of sight. First, our hero jumps here before walking over to this spot. From here you can misty step down to the bottom using orbital mode to make sure it's safe. After looting everything that isn't nailed down, he steps outside using this teleporter. He then attacks Auntie Ethel from a safe distance to force her to move downstairs, before running back through the teleporter and ignoring everything else. Back down in the Hag's Lair, he buffs up with Shield of Thralls and an Elixir of Vigilance, and uses haste. He has a bit of a brain fart when it comes to re-equipping the 2 hand crossbows and only equips a net emissor. So at the start of the battle, he uses his actions to equip another hand crossbow to his offhand. With his second action, he throws a grease bottle up on the sledge before retreating into this room. On her first turn, Auntie Ethel will summon her mind control friends you sneaked past earlier, and the archer in particular will spawn where we threw that grease bottle earlier. Unfortunately, the archer wisdom saves turn 1 and doesn't come towards us and separates himself from the group. To run towards the main room and throw 2 javelins at the archer. Fortunately, the second one crits and kills the archer, making up for turn 1. With the archer dead, the cape's invisibility will proc and you can move away from your last known location to escape the battle. Tired from a long day of carrying his huge head around, our hero decided to rest at camp. But Astarion rudely interrupts his beauty sleep. Things get a little kinky, and when Astarion says that he wants to be penetrated, Big Head Fred gets a little too excited.
You wretch!
Back in the Hag's Lair, I summoned the invisible mage hand and positioned it here. Then I shoved. Now, while you can throw and shove this one off the ledge, there's not really anywhere to go. I tried to summon the ogres to help with her clones, but they also tried to kill Marina, so that wasn't going to work. Big Head Fred went back to Moonrise to form a plan and stole the risky ring and ring of free action from Araj while he was there. Wanted to go get the blind ring too, but there was a lot of cursed undead in his way. His brain throbbed from his 10 intelligence levels, and he decided it would be best to let the people of Moonrise deal with them. He pulled them back towards the guards, but they didn't seem to care, so he picked off the weaker ones, remembering to keep his distance, before retreating back towards the rafters. Fortunately, when the Drider gets inside, they manage to aggro the room and everyone jumps on them. Back at camp, Volo says he would like to stab Big Head Fred in the eye, and he decided that that was a good idea. Next, he goes and picks up the blind ring. And next up is the Githyanki ambush near the road to Baldur's Gate. Now, to the normal person, having to fight 5 Githyanki alone is going to be a difficult task, let alone at level 1 and on Tactician. But Big Head Fred is no ordinary man. His massive 10 intelligence brain inside his huge Githyanki head has already planned their doom. The first step is to sneak behind them so they spawn in without ambushing us. Then it's time to use the Shadow Curse to our advantage by kiting the enemies through it. They will come back as cursed and dead, but they have half the amount of health and are a lot easier to deal with. Start off by ambushing them. Then you want to start your retreat early while they're still surprised. On your next turn, use dash and click heals and position yourself behind this wall. Any further and you'll be out of combat. Next, you want to put yourself inside the House of Healing and close the door behind you. Now that the Githyanki should all be standing in the Shadow Curse taking damage, you hide and start making your way towards the roof. For some reason, this causes the leader to astral step here. As long as you stay in hide, the rest will die to the Shadow Curse. Once they've all died to the curse, we get out of combat with the leader by moving away from them.
Don't waste a step.
The rangers are a little scary and you'll need to make sure that after every turn you're out of their attack range. This may cause some of the melee being out of combat too, but that's only going to make it easier to divide and conquer. Using throwing attacks from the rooftops makes quick work of the weakened Githyanki. And while coming down for the last melee, they decided to jump themselves out of combat. Now it's time to focus on their leader. You have to kite her around while dealing damage, but she can use Astral Step and has Eldritch Blast, which lets her attack you from way outside your own attack range. Start off by sneak attacking her and then using throw attacks. You can use your bonus action too before you retreat.
On my way.
Use another throwing attack before retreating and breaking line of sight. She should use Form of Dread before dashing towards you. Keep using throwing attacks and retreating towards House of Healing, making sure to keep breaking line of sight for Eldritch Blast. Fortunately, Big Head Fred has a keen eye for crits, so he's able to kill her quickly. But if this fight takes longer, you need to prioritize being able to break line of sight over doing damage. The reward is the Arachnid Braces, which give us a telekinesis per a short rest. We went back into the Whispering Depths and hunt for the key to the Necromancy of Fae. We use invisibility to sneak up on the Spider Queen, before using the Bull Rush ability from the Mighty Cloth to push the Spider Queen down into the hole. Small spiders can be a little scary, so throw as much damage at them as possible. You need to kill one per turn. The second spider deals a lot of damage with its attack, but then leaves itself on top of the webbing. After using Shield of Rogues for the 10 HP, we use Magic Missile to hit the spider and take out the webbing for the full damage, but it survives and another attack might kill us. With only one health point remaining, we attack the spider once more to end the battle, and we can loot the key to the book. Now it's time to beat the hag. You'll need about 5 Fog Cloud or Darkness Scrolls, an Elixir of Vigilance for the initiative bonus, and we use the Scroll of Mage Armor just in case. Then sneak around here, jump behind them and go to this spot. From here you can shove them straight into the canyon. Fred tried to shoot this one right off the edge, but the game lied, unfortunately. He then used his Potion of Speed and cast Darkness around himself. In case you're not aware, Darkness blocks all projectiles, so this stops the clones from being able to hit us unless they're in melee range, so none of them are going to be able to hit us this turn. One clone does decide to commit Sudoku though. You'll want all the mind slaves gone before you start hitting the hags, so kill them first. Fortunately, after the disappointment that was the first turn, Fred gets a huge crit and is able to kill them with action spare. He decides to save the invisibility rather than break it and ends the turn. If you're not invisible and you still have an action spare, you want to use hide to stop anyone from coming towards you. Fred didn't want to have to sit through all the clones' turns every round, so he decided to kill some of them. But if you want to know which one is a hag, you can find out by examining her and looking for Fey life. He gets some damage off on the hag, and then on the hag's turn they try their clone trick again, but this time with Mayrina. He gets rid of another hag clone before breaking the hag's disguise. Surprisingly, this procs the cape's invisibility. On his next turn, Big Head Fred's brain tingles, and he senses it's time to use another darkness scroll. If, unlike our hero, your brain doesn't tingle whenever it's time to use darkness again, then you'll have to count turns with a pen and paper, because for some reason Larian didn't want to have a turn counter for it. From here on you can just count darkness turns, shoot with your bonus actions, hide, rinse and repeat. As much as I personally hate Mayrina, I had to talk the hag into giving us her scalp and letting Mayrina go.
You greedy little bollocks.
It was all for a good cause, because Big Head Fred got another strength level to help with carrying his massive head, and back outside after tormenting Mayrina.
Not permanent! Bits of him have fallen off!
He decided to take Connor for himself.
You bastard! Give him back!
Big Head Fred went back to camp and changed their stats for the last time. Strength went to 17, Dexterity to 16, Constitution to 10, Int and Wisdom to 8, and Charisma to 14. Big Head Fred still needed the Ogre's headband. But why work hard when you can work smarter? By casting invisibility on ourselves, we can stand in the middle of a goblin infested camp and summon the ogres. Using the horn doesn't actually break invisibility, so if you wanted you could just go AFK while in turn-based modes as the battle plays out. If you prefer to fight, then as long as you stay away from the ogres and kill one goblin in a turn so you'll spend all your time being invisible, the ogres will soak up all the damage. Once the battle is over, make yourself invisible again and loot all the bodies, making sure to grab the headband. Big Head Fred didn't like the fact that his own people had tried to ambush him earlier, so he went back for revenge. From here it's possible to shoot both the leader and the wolf off with one arrow, but lining it up can be a little difficult. If the leader saves, then they need to go off on the next try, or it's most likely death and refresh. Next you want to focus on killing the mage first to proc invisibility before moving away from your last known location.
Have to keep going.
After they find nothing and you're out of combat, you can reset the ambush. But I forgot to be in hide when sneaking up on them. Fortunately they miss, and Shield of Throws saves us. And our throwing attacks deal a good amount of damage. I'm able to break line of sight by using Misty Step and running away. We're able to kill the archer in 2 turns and it's just left with the wolf. As long as you click heals every turn, you'll be able to keep your distance and kite the wolf with throwing attacks. It gets stuck in this corner a little and there's a short panic before Big Head Fred remembers that we have magic missile and that he can pew it from around the corner. For the commander, he starts off by using a scroll of Scorching Ray on the nearby ranger. In this patch, I was able to use sneak attack on scrolls for damage. On the next turn, throw down the iron flask at the commander's feet. We try to get a kill with our bonus action, but we miss out. This next part has been rated too gory for YouTube, so we had to close the door to censor this out. After the turn of the century that was so gruesome it gave Rob Zombie a 24-hour erection, our hero can return to the room to lift the watershed. Focusing in on weakened Githyanki, we kill and proc invisibility, then use click heals and get away from our last known location. The Githyanki do a lot of damage together and the spectator doesn't have a lot of health, so it's important to focus down the Githyanki each turn. Ideally you want to be killing one every turn, but the spectator can frighten them, which can come in clutch. We get a massive crit to kill the last Githyanki groupie, and the spectator gets a huge dodge before another huge frightened proc on the commander. We're able to get off some damage before the YouTube guidelines door closes again. One more throwing attack before we misty step away and try to kite the commander. Things get a little scary when they misty step right next to us, and Big Head Fred didn't want to risk kiting them anymore, so he used an arrow of roaring thunder to blast the commander into the abyss. Being so close to an attack of opportunity that could have ended the last battle, it was time to loot the Moondrop pendant from the Cellunite chest back in Albert Cave. We basically equip this and then never take it off. You can also steal this ring off of Oliver in the Shadow Curse lands. This ring gives pass without trace, which helps a lot with stealthing around. With telekinesis, we can loot Priestess Gut by moving her body here. We can also pick up Draw Ragslin. Unfortunately, Minthara is nowhere to be found. Now it's time to get ability drain and Calder weak. And we hand in a bunch of metal to Damon for the quest rewards. We're mostly interested in the flawed Hell Dust gloves. Now it's time to kill Isabel so that we can get our Slayer form. She doesn't put up much of a fight, so she should be dead within a few turns. After convincing Jaheira that you most definitely did not just kill Isabel, you'll want to move out of the way so you don't get hit by her ice storm. Now you could just stay invisible and teleport out at this point, but that would be too easy and this channel doesn't even understand what easy means. Start off by misty stepping up onto the roof of the inn. Target any ranged attackers first and make sure to stay out of their line of sight. Make use of smoke powder bombs to deal with groups. Also helps if you remember to drink an elixir of bloodlust. Towards the end of the fight there will be a number of Shadow Curse undead inside the inn. It's important to identify any rangers by examining them to see what weapon they have in their hands. You'll need to come off the roof by the back of the building and start baiting them to come upstairs. All grouped together you can throw smoke powder bombs to weaken them and kite them around the second floor. The Moondrop pendant really puts in a lot of work here, keeping you safe. The hyper mode items and buffs are so fun to build around like this. After all the Shadow Curse are gone, it's just kill the trees and then loot. I respec Shadowheart into a Tempest Cleric as I will be using her to complete the Trials of Shar, so she can become a Dark Justicia for her questline. Big Head Fred's massive brain told him to approach from this side, then go invisible here. Pick the lock on the door which starts the battle.
You feel a tremble rising from the floor, growing stronger.
It does require a critical roll though. Fortunately my last roll unlocked the door. That brings Balthazar and all his friends into the battle. I also get really lucky as I accidentally wasted my invisibility, so this Justicia almost kills me as I tried to run away, and then just let the fight play out between the two groups. Balthazar will inevitably lose because the Justicias can apparently summon this thing if you don't just close the portals, and it can literally make itself invulnerable. Things get a little messy at the end, so be sure to teleport out or use invisibility to escape. I have Shadowheart equipped with some of my best gear for the clone trial. We're able to perceive the ambush, making it visible, and we open the fight with a fireball from the iridescent staff. Throw out your hardest hitting scrolls and buff with haste. When it gets a turn, either go out of its line of sight or use Sanctuary. Once it's dead and the rest of the trials are finished, it's off to you gear. Big Head Fred uses extreme cunning to convince Yu-Gi into having a Sudoku party. Close to being able to take on Ketheric Thorm, he decided now would be a good time to meet him. After convincing Zarel that he's one of them, he follows her back to their office. To kill Zarel, we use Cloud of Madness on her. This will make her hostile to her bodyguard for 3 turns, but she can save from it, so be sure to cast it from outside their line of sight. You'll need to damage her too, but as long as everyone else thinks you're an ally, you'll be okay to attack her. If she saves or you run out of turns, you should stop attacking and reset. I got a little greedy here because everyone was weak and I was lucky enough to finish them all off quickly. I didn't want Squire to be in the Ketheric fight on the roof, so I befriended him and then killed him in Ketheric's bedroom. Enjoy going back to bed tonight, Ketheric, to find your dog dead in the bed. Now it's time to save the prisoners under Moonrise. Start off by sneaking around the outside of the central structure. Using turn-based mode to sneak in, get the hammer and get out. Before handing the hammer over, we need to kill the guards first. They're too heavy to throw even at 20 strength in the Elixir of Colossus, but I'm not sure if the elixir matters. But we can throw them to their deaths with telekinesis. It's only a 5% chance, but they don't seem to get aggressive if you fail, so it's okay to spam it. Big Head Fred is the godfather of statistical probability though, because he gets it on the second try. The game gives the guard a well-timed cutscene, and as long as no one else is nearby, you're fine. Be careful where you leave them though, if you want to be able to loot them afterwards. The other guard weighs a lot less and the chances are way higher for telekinesis on them. For the warden, you can improvise throw her outside.
You were witnessed assaulting someone. You're headed for the cells.
And then shove her off. From there you can either use Scrolls of Shatter or Thunder Chromatic Orb to kill the scrying guys, or talk to Wilburn out of their line of sight. Fred chose to do the latter. Afterwards, Big Head Fred finally gets access to the slave form he earned after killing Isabel earlier. He makes one last check for any loot he may need, before it's time to let Shadowheart fulfill her destiny and become the chosen of Shar. Before stripping off all her new shiny gear and kicking her to the curb. Infiltrating Moonrise solo is not only possible, but it's actually pretty fun. At least I find it fun because it's ridiculously geeky. Using Shar's Spear of Evening's special darkness ability, you can cast darkness over and over again without having to rest. So you use that to block the line of sight of all the guards. Just make sure that you're in hide and the new darkness cloud is still around your character. There's a branch you can climb up the side, and if you're paranoid about being seen, you can cast darkness into spots where you need to jump. To get to Ketheric, you can sneak into this position and use darkness, being sure to cover the door. With 18 decks and the Dryad already dead, you should have first turn, but if you want to be sure, then use an Elixir of Vigilance. The most important thing about this fight is getting both dialogue checks. The first needs a 21 and the second needs a 30. You'll want both intimidation proficiency levels and to dump strength and take 16 charisma. I didn't, so learn from my mistakes, but this will set up part 2 nicely. The battle with Ketheric is actually a lot easier than you would think. Start off by using Shar's darkness in the middle of the room, drink a potion of speed and then hide inside it. I didn't want Sustera to start spamming necromites, so I bursted her down with a heavy hitting scorching ray from Yuga's hand crossbow. When she was almost dead, I drank an elixir of bloodlust to get the additional action. We didn't kill enough necromites, so things got a little scary. But when you have one side free of necromites, you're safe to set up shop, attack, hide and repeat. Like in the hag fight earlier, you'll need to count the turns of your darkness and recast it before it runs out or it's game over. After beating Ketheric, he'll then come up with the greatest excuse I've ever heard to run away from a fight.
My lord beckons me.
Big Head Fred, with his eyes set on the final showdown with the big brain, decided he was going to need more allies. To save Zevlor, start by drinking an elixir of vigilance before interacting with the control panel. Just like Ketheric, it's potion of speed, Shar's darkness and hide. Now for some reason Larian decided to code cheating mind flayers. And by that, what I mean is that they're aware of the fact that it's a game and their win condition is to kill me. So they will ignore everyone else and try to kill only me. So as long as we're able to stay hidden in the darkness, then we win. Cheese me, Larian, and I'll cheese you right back. Speaking of cheese, there's still Ketheric and Apostle of Merkel to deal with. Remember those dialogue checks from earlier, right? Well, Ketheric has one more here, and it will force the fight straight into phase 2.
Repent? Would that even be possible?
Now, I tend to stay pretty humble, but I do have to say that this fight is a work of genius. The Apostle is pretty strong, but it has one major weakness. It cannot move. So we're able to exploit that by meeting the immovable object with the unstoppable force that is our huge hard brain. First, start off by throwing down a caustic bulb at the base of the Apostle. Normally caustic bulbs are pretty useless, but the brine that comes out of them when they explode is special, and then it lasts until long rest, and it also deals damage, so the next goal is to get out of combat. To do that, you have to leave a last known position that is being investigated before Michael gets a turn to AoE pull you out back. I head towards the door in my first attempt and get pulled back, but we live thanks to Shield of Thralls. On my next turn, I'm able to hide out of the enemy's line of sight and get far enough away. When my last known position is searched and they find nothing, the magic happens. Now it might look like this is some type of bug or glitch, but weirdly enough this is probably the game working it as intended. Like I mentioned earlier, the Apostle can't move and the brine that we left at its base does damage. So what is happening is the boss takes damage, enters combat, immediately realizes there is no enemy within sight and so exits combat. It's just doing this over and over and over again. Now the brine only deals 1 to 4 damage per turn. So this is where I went AFK, danced around the room at what I had done, and then came back about 20 to 30 minutes later. And when that final tick of damage comes in, it was onto the real nightmare of the run. As Big Head Fred leaves for Baldur's Gate, he's presented with a stern reminder that he's the OG, the original mother-flipping Githyanki. So amazing that he pulled off Goku's instant transmission, taking him back to the beginning of Act 2, before he teleports back in the blink of an eye to Halsin, while a female voice inside his head tries to first trap him into having bear sex with Halsin.
Though however deep your pain, it cannot compare to Halsin's.
While dreaming about what could have been with Halsin, Big Head Fred is rudely interrupted by a bunch of Githyanki who wanted to fist him. He misty stepped over to the huge gaping portal and asked them if they would make his butthole this wide please. But they didn't look as friendly as he thought, so he went inside the portal. If you jump up here, you can just sneak around the Githyanki inside and make your way down to the hell that is this battle. Drink an elixir of vigilance and cast darkness on this spot before hiding and moving towards the cloud. Not only will this create a cool backdrop to the cutscene ahead, and it looks awesome when the Githyanki kicks the Emperor into it. Even after he's lectured you for 10 minutes while the Githyanki wait patiently nearby, the cloud will still be up with you safely inside. We start off by using an arrow of roaring thunder to blast this Githyanki off the edge, before drinking a potion of speed. You take another shot at the Githyanki on the other floating rock, but they save. As long as you don't get too close, the Githyanki will attack in a set order. The Emperor will mind blast these two Githyanki in the middle, stunning one of them. We go for a thunder wave and knock the leader down into the abyss. That's the biggest threat out of the way. In retrospect, I probably should have just tried to get the other Githyanki off the edge too, and not worry about the one too close to the Emperor, but I decided to try and take the defensive route by covering us both with darkness. One of the Githyanki monks attacked this void bulb that was lying around, while the other Githyanki was still stunned. The Emperor dominates one of the Githyanki and does nothing else. I should have done more here, but the potion of speed is about to run out, so I waited it out and hide. After taking a beating from the two remaining Githyanki, the Emperor chads it out with a massive chain lightning. Although he almost dies the next turn before clutching it out with another stun. But a scorching ray and another attack is enough to finish them both off. We then claimed our reward for that fight by unlocking our Illithid powers and clearing the way to Act 3. In the final act of his adventure, Big Head Fred wanted to visit the circus, but he didn't pass the vicious murderer test.
Blood! Tasty blood! So delicious!
After persuading his way into the circus, he stole a ring from Akabe before playing his game.
Let us see if you have luck's favor.
Unfortunately, I put the recording on pause and forgot to unpause it, but we just drank a potion of invisibility and ran to the end of the jungle for the chest.
You thief! You cheated!
Afterwards, we speak with Wolbrun to get the rune powder bomb and also get access to the flash blinder from the deep gnome blacksmith nearby. When surrendering to the Steel Watcher, a deep gnome rebel shows up to show off how OP the flash blinder is at dealing with the Steel Watchers, and this is going to be very important information for later on.
Villains, take heed. Recovery is imminent.
While taking a long rest between looting, Orin showed up in the camp pretending to be Lae'zel. Or maybe it was Gortash disguised as Orin disguised as Lae'zel? I'm not really sure.
Baal is waiting, Slaughterkin. Do not disappoint him.
After raiding the Sorceress Sundry's vaults, we can finally finish the Necromancy of Fate quest, and in doing so gain access to the Dance Macabre spell. We can then use Zombie Connor to move the chest out of the hallway so we can loot the Helmet of Grit. This is basically going to be always equipped. Then we loot a small collection of brain worms before shoving them all into our eyeballs. I then made my way down to the sewers, and by shooting these hanging corpses you can open the door towards the Baal temple. Now let me introduce you to my best mate, Strangler Luke. With a ridiculous 20 strength, dex and constitution, he gatekeeps the bone spike gloves, which turns out I didn't need, but I didn't know that at the time. First we fly down here while invisible, and we pass a perception check to reveal them. Otherwise you have to sit here and roll the dice over and 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 over.
One eternity later.
And over again. I'm going to start off by using a scroll of magic missile to break their unstoppable. An elixir of vigilance should guarantee your first turn. Then putting Mind Sanctuary down to make full use of all of our actions and bonus actions. Then I go for a Scorching Ray from Yugi's hand crossbow, before going for a Thunder Wave to try and deal with all the weaker enemies. On our next turn we're lucky to get a big crit with a thrown hand axe, so we can finish them off with another one. Then after looting the gloves we shot the last one off with an arrow roaring thunder. The spellcaster nearby, we can use Psionic Dominance on his ice knife. I didn't realise the Mind Sanctuary forced me to use an action for click heals, so when I flew down towards the red ghost I had to drink a potion of speed for the extra movement. Then we used the magic missile from the Nere hand crossbow to get rid of all the 5 unstoppable charges, before using Repulsor to finish the trial. Before confronting Orin, we're going to need to become an unholy assassin so we can get the Baalist armor. To start off, we're going to let Cora Highbury drink the poison since it's impossible for us to kill him before he runs away. And then back at the Facemaker's boutique, we buff with haste before going into the back. We get a really bad initiative roll and we're so lucky that the only person that attacks us misses. On our turn we disengage before summoning our Dance Macabre to block this door. I go for a black hole before using click heals and going outside the house to get away from any attacks. Unfortunately our ghouls die immediately, and then necrotic damage from their explosion barely dents our HP. Although we have a backup plan, because if we can kite them outside, the Steel Watchers will come to help us out. Once the Steel Watchers have been brought into the fray, we set up some difficult terrain outside the door with plant growth before hiding on the roof. Things get a little scary when Dolof uses throwness, but thankfully the only thing he can throw are paralysed potions, and there's no chance of him getting close enough to us. Once Dolor and company are all dead, we can loot all the necessary items to enter the murder trials. although we had an appointment at the bank to attend. But while stealing everyone's life savings, we were rudely interrupted by some ballers who had beaten us to the vault. You have to stack initiative gear, come in pre-buff with haste and have Dance Macabre summoned. I should have drank an elixir of vigilance too to guarantee first turn. On my first turn, I'm going to fly down here and use the Scorching Ray scroll to burn the unstoppable charges. And then we're going to use Black Hole since we can move them as they're no longer unstoppable. We need to get us some damage on the spellcaster since they'll be spamming slow before moving into the vault. Although the Barless is still able to dash towards us and use its stun through the wall, immediately breaking our concentration on haste, the guards on our side do a good job of focusing on them and burning down our unstoppable charges. It can be a bit of a loss through what happens now, but one of the ghouls comes closer to the Barless and that's going to distract them, and the other ghouls are able to get a massive paralyzed proc on one of the Barless, meaning each hit that lands will be a crit for 2 turns, so they're basically dead. We don't need them to get kills, just act as a distraction from us. The spellcaster does what they do best and is an annoying, casts slow and an area effect that encompasses the entire universe. But one of the guards comes in clutch with a massive critical hit. Since the Barless cannot move without taking reaction attacks, it's forced to attack the nearby guards instead of attacking us. Wow, I really forgot how clutch they were on this try because the ranger shuts down concentration on slow immediately. The ghouls also land another paralyzed proc on the other assassin, and the spellcaster goes for, you guessed it, slow. The amount of negative status in Act 3 to avoid was really fun. Yeah. On our turn, I decided to play it safe by using Black Hole to pull the spellcaster closer before I shut the vault door. But apparently stunning gaze can hit me inside the vault, so that was a waste of time. But the ranger is able to break the spellcaster's concentration again. Mr. Glitterbeard throws out a lightning bolt which hits 2 of the Barless while also killing our ghoul. But that's okay because they explode when they die. The ghouls really have been the MVPs, especially since we spent 99.99999% of our time being stunned. The ghouls unfortunately get killed before we get our turn, so we can't see what happens. But by the time our turn comes back around, there's only one assassin left. The last assassin quickly falls and then we're free to loot all the goodies in the vaults. From the Minx encounter in the sewers, we come in pre-buff with haste, and on our first turn we're going to turn off this fire. Then I use magic missile from the net emissary to drain all the unstoppable charges and break this ladder in the process. Before using plank growth from the armor of landfall to create difficult terrain, then we start using black hole to keep them on the other side of the terrain. As long as you finish your turn in this exact spot, none of the enemies will be able to reach you. Plank growth reduces movement speed to 1/4 while in it, and black hole while putting slow on top of that, coupled together with there being some space between the plank growth and the ladder, is going to be very hard for anyone to jump up. Minx is unfortunately immune to plank growth though. So on our next turn we're going to summon the Dance Macabre to set up some defense. Didn't summon them before because I wanted to be able to place them instead of hoping that AI went the right way. Then we're going to use Scorching Ray from the Hellfire hand crossbow to burst down Minx. Not much happens, but then on Minx's turn, he uses Rush Attack, placing him right next to all the ghouls, and then the Barless spellcaster uses Ice Knife, killing the ghouls, and the ghouls' explosion almost kills Minx. I could not have asked for a better turn of events. On our turn we use Black Hole one more time, and then we try to finish off Minx, but he's able to dodge, and our next shot barely connects. From then on, we just focus down an enemy with throwing attacks while keeping them under control with Black Hole. I like to focus on any range-based enemies first and then pick the melee off. I'm not sure why, but my game started really bugging out in Act 3 and would freeze up for about half a second whenever I threw something. We won't be using throwing attacks for much longer though. When it gets to the time that your haste runs out, Plank Growth will be soon to follow. You'll need to make sure that this Barless is dead, since he's the only one who can jump up aside from Minx. I'm not quite able to finish them off, but I go for Stage Fright and we're lucky to proc Frighten on them, so we're safe. After that assassin is dead, you're free to pick them off one by one, as none of them have enough strength to be able to jump up to you. I had a little fun bullying the last Barless by using Fly, always to put me in a spot where they had to dash and still not be able to reach me, while I chucked javelins into his eye sockets. Now that that's been sorted, it's time to attend the murder trial and become an unholy assassin of Baal. This will let us buy a bunch of goodies from this special trader, most notably the Barless armor, which will be basically doubling all damage we do because of the passive ability Aura of Murder. For the Orin fight, I start off by summoning the Dance Macabre. before buffing with mage armor. We have the 20 temporary HP from the Codex Blessing. Then I use a scroll of mirror image and drink an elixir of universal resistance and buff with haste before the battle. I tried to pass a deception check to free Lizelle, but we rolled a 1. Then we rolled again with inspiration and rolled a 2. And with my final inspiration point, I rolled a 16 and left me with a 24, 1 short of 25. So, sorry Lizelle, I guess. We tried. Kind of brutal that Orin stabs her right in the eyes though. As the Dark Urge, we can use the dialogue option to transform into the Slayer to start the duel to be the chosen of Baal. This will be a 1v1 between Big Head Fred and Orin without any of the Baalers joining in as long as we stay in the circle. We get really unlucky and Orin opens up with Unsettling Visage, which frightens us, making it so we can't move, and then she rubs the salt in by immediately breaking our concentration on haste. Because of the elixir, we're able to reduce Orin's damage significantly, but the ghouls are able to get an attack off on Orin each, and this is important as it wears down her legendary resistance. On my turn, I use Sumptuous Bloodbath because not only does it cause bleed, but if it does, then we get a small heal every turn, and our attacks get extra effects, most importantly our Slay attack. Then I drink a potion of speed and use multi-attack on Orin. It's important to position yourself in a spot that will make Orin have to run past as many ghouls as possible, as this will wear down her legendary resistance. Once the legendary resistance is gone, it's a lot easier to knock her prone with Relentless Lunge. Orin goes for another attack, but she misses her first hit, so her follow-up hits only do half damage as she does not get the Pierce vulnerability on us. And then we go for Relentless Lunge on our turn. With the bleeding from earlier and her now prone, Slate is going to do way too much damage, with the ghouls finishing off where we couldn't. After the duel is over, it's time to accept our heritage as the chosen of Baal. This will give us some special buffs in the final battle, and we're going to need every bit of help we can find. I got a little too happy about all the new rogue goodies we got from Orin. I didn't need to kill everyone, and I didn't need anything Viconian dropped, but I thought who better than to test out our new goodies on. I start off by summoning the Dance Macabre before drinking an elixir of Colossus to make us a big boy, and then buffing with haste before running in and attacking. The dagger that Orin dropped is a bound weapon, so you can actually use it as a thrown weapon and get sneak attacks from miles away. I then go for a black hole on a big group of them. And then I decided to try my luck with stage fright, before putting some distance between us. Viconia's shadow steps right next to us though, and things get a little scarier, especially when 3 of the ghouls run in the wrong direction, before getting deleted in a single turn. But none of the Dark Justicians are able to get near us. And when the final ghoul gets a turn, angered by the stupidity of its fallen brothers, it gets a massive critical hit paralyzed proc combo on Viconia. For some reason I equipped the Crimson Mischief but then put it into my main hand. Though when I hit Viconia with a sneak attack, it did a gigaton of damage for a level 1 character. I finished her off with an offhand attack and decided I'd had enough close calls for the day, so I ran away and took a break from recording. When I came back I decided to just sneak past the Dark Justicians and lockpick the door in the back, but I ended up almost running out of thieves tools trying to get in. Fortunately on my last attempt I got a critical success, and we can head on through. At the Mirror of Loss I handed over the forbidden knowledge from the Necromancy of Faith since we didn't need it anymore, and got the +2 bonus to our strength. While exploring the city we stumbled across Volo having a minor disagreement with a group of people. Big Head Fred was still a little mad at Volo for the whole stabbing him in the eye with an ice pick thing though, so I wanted to help the Zentrim out since it's the harder of the 2 options. This is the stats and equipment I use. I also drank an elixir of vigilance for the initiative bonus. I start off by summoning the Dance Macabre and then we're going to run forward to start the battle. Keen is definitely a very scary opponent. She has high initiative and her throwing attacks do a ridiculous amount of damage. I'm going to start off by using Scorching Ray with a sneak attack. And when I get close enough to have the Aura of Murder on her while I can still attack with advantage, her hand crossbows really didn't do any damage, so I'm going to click heals and get away from Keen. And Keen is going to demonstrate exactly why I needed to run away. Not much happens in the battle until... And this is going to let us quickly get rid of Keen with 2 offhand critical hits. And then I'm going to use a scroll of invisibility. With Keen gone, the Zentrum don't immediately fold and are able to hold their own. And the ghouls really put in a lot of work. They're so strong it's actually silly. With everyone on the high ground dead, the rest of the fight goes the Zentrim's way. I kinda wish I hadn't gotten so lucky with the parrot on Keen, because I was looking forward to trying to kite them around and distract them while the Zentrim killed everyone else. I did get too comfortable near the end in this 9 fingers is almost able to kill us, but they roll a 1 on their attack roll and our counter attack finishes the battle. Before fighting Gortash, I needed to take out the Steel Watch, so I used invisibility before going into the lab. At the back of the lab you can find a book you need to read for the password. I wanted to keep the room powder bomb in case I needed it for Gortash. Then I lockpick the door and head on through to the boss room.
As the lock clicks open, the alarm triggers, and the screaming begins.
With an elixir of vigilance and buffing with haste, we're ready for the Steel Watch Titan. First I'm going to summon the Dance Macabre in these positions. I want them not close enough to each other and on each side to pull aggro the other Steel Watchers. I wasn't so sure the strategy was going to work, so I flew away and made it so none of them could get to me to boost my odds of success. The ranger doesn't come as close as I was hoping, but both of the swords wielding Steel Watch end up in very good positions for this strategy. Unfortunately though, the Titan ignores the final ghoul and dashes towards us, but its curse is nothing to be worried about. Since the Titan dashed towards me, I'm only able to hit the Titan in 2 melee with the Flashbinder. But this throwball is going to completely shut down any Steel Watch it hits for 2 turns, including the Titan. And it turns out the aura of murder works on the Steel Watcher Titan, so we're able to get off some hard hits while it's stunned with the grenade. But we're going to have to make sure we back off to break line of sight on the ranger. The ranger kills the final ghoul but still doesn't position itself close enough for the grenade. And on my turn I get off some more damage on the Titan before backing off and closing the door. But this makes the ranger dash and they're able to run all the way in the room. So I'm going to leave that room and close the door behind me, and it's time to throw another Flashblinder. After getting off a bit more damage, I save a bonus action so I can click heals and fly towards the back of the room. I need to be able to get out a range of the Ranger Titan, so this is really scary for the strategy. This began an interesting game of cat and mouse where I had to go back and forth like this, hoping that the Ranger would line up with the other Steel Watchers so that I could get them all with 1 grenade, as I didn't have enough grenades to throw 2 every 2 turns. The one saving grace though is that it is the Ranger, so they can't threaten with any opportunity attacks. And then I found out if I positioned myself here, I would be far enough away that they would need to dash, but not far enough that they would go too far. But it turned out they were still just out of range. Our haste was just about to run out, so I threw another Flashbinder, got off a bit more damage on the Titan, and then tried to put as many obstacles and distance between us. But I should have gone further because I got really lucky here with a Steel Watcher within range. I drink a potion of speed and throw a Flashblinder. I decided to burn my Lithic critical here, hoping to finish the battle, but it's not enough, so I have to back off. Big Head Fred's finishing blow is so powerful that it causes the Steel Watcher Titan to do whatever this is supposed to be. After I loot the boss, I'm going to go invisible to get out of combat and then use the password I found earlier to blow up the factory. Now I had to make my way to Gortash through his small army of followers. I swapped out our boots of speed for the line breaker boots I got way back in the Goblin camp, and with haste up and using dash every turn for the Wrath charges, we're able to do a ton of damage with our offhand Crimson Mischief, killing most of the guards in 1 to 2 hits. I did accidentally forget to unpause my recording at the start, so I cleared out this additional room so you can see how strong this setup was. I also decided to go down into the prison to free the councillor. Between us, killing them so quickly and our cape's invisibility dispatching the guards was no problem. I succeeded on a persuasion check on the councillor and then escort them out of the prison. For the room before the ceremony, I decided to just skip it and use invisibility. I thought Gortash would be upstairs, but since I never spoke to him in the ceremony hall earlier, it's only a few of his guards. Just in case I ended up here later, I quickly killed them and went about planning my strategy for fighting Gortash. Fighting Gortash in the ceremony hall was actually a lot of fun, because it turned out I could use his own traps against him. I start off by casting a scroll of haste I'd found earlier, then I sneak in and attack his guards in turn-based mode to start off the battle with everyone surprised. Next I'm going to go around and activate the 2 traps on the right and collect the grenades they drop. Normally these grenades don't do a lot of damage to Gortash since he resists them without his bubble and is immune with his bubble, and when he transforms. But we're going to use a setup that makes him vulnerable to them for 1 turn. After picking up 2 of them on the right side, I drop them both in the middle. I need to move one of the grenades to be on the right side of the throne. You want it to be behind Gortash and in a diagonal line from him so that it pushes him to the left if he fails to save. The other grenade, it doesn't really matter as long as it's not close enough to the first grenade, as we don't want it blowing up just yet. Then I use the hand crossbow shot on the first grenade. This should destroy the shield generator behind Gortash. Now I need to use black holes so that Gortash is on the left side of the hall. And the final action of the turn is to go over to the left side and collect 2 more grenades before ending my turn. I'm not sure why, but the traps on the left side will be able to shoot another grenade each turn, so I collect both of them. You should have 5 concussion grenades now. It's time to split them up and drop them near to where Gortash is. I still need to pull Gortash a bit further left, so I use black hole again. This causes his malfunctioning shield generator to put a shield around him, and this makes him vulnerable to all damage for 1 turn. After moving the grenades around him, I summon Dance Macabre, get some distance and... Unfortunately, I had placed the grenades too close to Gortash. Not only did 2 of them not explode, but the ones that did had blown Gortash out of the way of any serious damage. If doing this strategy, I recommend placing half the grenades on the right side and the other towards the left wall, as this ends up doing a lot more damage. You'll see what I mean in a bit. Now, I literally had never seen this before until I tried to do this run, but Gortash actually has a final form. Although it kinda is just him using Enlarge on himself and getting access to a few new powers, most of which you can just avoid by running away from them. Now, in hindsight, I should have just examined Gortash because I decided to fly in and pick up the 2 surviving concussion grenades, drop them at Gortash's feet and blow them up. But in this form, like I said earlier, Gortash is immune to fire, force and thunder, so damaging him with traps in this form isn't going to work. Kiting Gortash is fairly simple since we can just fly up this side and be way out of reach of everyone. But since turns were taking forever to finish, I ended up pausing it but forgot to unpause it on my turn, so I had to kill Gortash all over again. The story of this run so far. Fortunately, the grenade strategy was very consistent, and as you can see from Gortash's health, placing the grenades further away resulted in him taking a lot more damage. It's even so consistent that the enemies all do basically the exact same thing, as Gortash will demonstrate. It is worth noting that in this form, Gortash can attack you as a reaction, even with the Moondrop pendant on, so you'll need to use an action to disengage when fighting him as melee before flying away. This much weakened Gortash, and the new Wrath stacking strategy that I'm using finishes off Gortash within a few turns. When he's dead, I loot the Reflector Guard grenades he's never sown and then I fly away. I decided against fighting the rest of the guards since just figuring out how to kill Gortash had taken me 4 hours, so I was a little tired of combat. On the way to the final showdown, you can get past this Intellect Devourer ambush by just being in hide. If you're spotted by the Intellect Devourer, just be sure to put yourself back into hide and you'll be okay. I save all my remaining inspiration points for the last dialogue check versus Netherbrain. With advantage on a dexterity check for my armor, I'm able to roll a critical success which will weaken the Netherbrain for the final battle. Now, in what was a rather stupid decision, I decided to let the Emperor use the Neverstone and eat Orpheus's brain, because apparently the Emperor is the worst mind flayer to have ever existed. Not only does he have negative movement, but he can only use fly once a turn and does basically 0 damage. Voss wasn't too happy though that I had let the Emperor turn his prince into brain soup, but I was able to get a critical success on a persuasion check to keep him as an ally.
Mother Gith, hear me. Yis Githga Tavki Crashhead.
I tried to sneak my way through the first battle, but since the Emperor has the grace of an elephant on ice, they get themselves spotted when I was almost all the way through. So I decided to leave them behind, hoping that if I kept going the game would teleport the Emperor to my location. And when I fly up here, that's exactly what happens. For the fight against the Netherbrain, I wanted both of us to be hasted, so I used a potion of speed with the Emperor and casted haste on myself. This battle took me about 6 hours in total of research trying to figure out how this could even be possible, which was the longest amount of time I'd spent in a single encounter. For the first turn I'm going to summon a group of allies, doesn't matter which as long as it's a group. Then I throw down a reflector guard that I got from Gortash earlier. This will make it so any projectile is reflected back, and it will even work on the dragon's fire breath. There was a wizard clone here because I'd forgotten to kick Gale, so I quickly killed that. The positioning here had to be on this exact spot or I risked taking opportunity attacks from the dragon. The wizard clone falls easily though. I then flew over to the side here. I didn't want to be too close to the mind flayers because I want them to use magic missile on their turn. I didn't notice at the time, but the reflector guard had missed on one of my allies. On the Emperor's turn, I fly him over to the opposite side, attack this mind flayer and then position him away from the mind flayer, hoping to bait magic missile. Gale being here fortunately wasn't an issue because I can just run and jump him off this roller coaster. The allies move and spread themselves about, and the mind flayers go for magic missiles, which my expert camera control skills definitely caught happening. Unfortunately, the dragon attacks one of the tentacles, so its AoE, which cannot be reflected, just deletes 2 of my allies instantly. Also, the Emperor got mind blasted, and I guess they failed to save because it said they was lethargic, although if you've ever used the Emperor, you might be convinced that that is their entire thing, being lethargic. The mind flayers all have an effect that will kill us if we attack in melee, so I have to kill them all with hand crossbow shots. The second mind flayer I shoot with a smoke power arrow I had looted earlier and had been saving. I can then finish them off with an offhand sneak attack. On the mind flayer's turn, one of them goes for a magic missile on the Emperor, and I'm not sure who this magic missile was aimed at, because it could have been one of my allies, but I only get to use psionic dominance once per long rest, and I won't need it in the final battle, so I use it now to be safe. The final ally though is a Gigachad because they're able to keep the dragon distracted the entire time. On my turn I'm going to summon Voss and have them use their dragon breath on these 2 mind flayers. You get a cool little cutscene with more pops in a bowl of Cocoa Pops, and then the camera defaults to this position for some reason. Then I quickly finish off both mind flayers. I missed an attack on this one, but it's slow enough that our attack can kill it, and since Call the Weak didn't finish it off, I get invisibility from my cloak. Since the Emperor was asleep last turn, they now have the movement speed of Nick Avocado, so they need to use dash to get close. And because they don't even have permanent mind sanctuary for some reason, I'm unable to do anything else this turn. The only thing that happens is the dragon attacks the Emperor, but since I had placed them out of range, the Big Head Fred were okay. I had also made the Emperor drink an elixir of fire resistance, which I forgot to mention, so it only takes 20 damage. I used my final Reflecto guard on me and the Emperor to protect them while they do their thing on the thing. I throw a potion of speed at them for the final battle. I then drink a potion of invisibility and position myself away from the Emperor. On the Emperor's turn I have them do the thing. The dragon uses fire breath, but the Reflecto guard bounces it safely back towards the dragon. I had to end my turn so that the Emperor could open the portal, but I wonder if manually swapping would have done the same thing. And because I was so tired at this point, I mashed through the cutscene too quickly and ended up skipping my turn. Back on Big Head Fred's turn, I manually swap it over to the Emperor so that I can cause the Netherbrain to do its AoE reaction. Since I had skipped my turn earlier, I'm already at a massive disadvantage and there's 2 areas marked for negation. I used Everard's Black Tentacles with the Emperor, though I'm not sure how relevant that is. Once Big Head Fred is inside, I set up a Mind Sanctuary and summon our Dance Macabre nice and close to the Netherbrain. But after going for an attack and seeing how little I did, I panicked a little and threw a potion of speed at the Emperor since they would be lethargic again soon. And somehow they ended up both hasted and lethargic, but it was okay since I had already taken their turn. On my turn I need to use Survival Instinct with Big Head Fred, and then I go into melee attack range, scoring a massive critical hit. The Netherbrain's reaction will kill Big Head Fred and I dance Macabre, which ends up inflicting heavy damage on the Netherbrain. Survival instinct gets us back up and we're immune to lethargic for some reason. I tried to research why, but unfortunately it wasn't documented anywhere, so if anyone knows why, please leave a comment below. I tried to use Slow with the Emperor to stop any further reactions, but Netherbrain saves against it, so I get them to safety and cast Chain Lightning on the brain for a good chunk of damage. And then I get off 3 attacks with Big Head Fred. Now pretty much one more hit will finish the fight, but I don't know if the Netherbrain can still do its AoE attack before it dies, so I decided to transform into the Slayer before delivering the final blow. Plus it seemed appropriate at the time to end the fight this way. It's an 85% chance to hit, and there's no guarantee the Emperor will be able to finish the fight, and we cannot get ourselves to safety afterwards. But just like that, I had finally beaten Tactician mode solo at level 1, and there was only one last thing to do. Yo, if you're still here at the end of this video, I just want to say a massive thank you for watching. Let me know if you like this longer form content of this series. I might plan on doing this a bit more in the future, but I don't know. I just had to get something out to you guys anyway. Anyway, I hope you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.